Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Bleach Anime Returns podcast. Today, I am joined with the biggest Bleach hater, the Why Bleach is a Failure mastermind, Kreams.
Thank you, thank you. It's nice to be on here.
Yeah. So I think it was 3 weeks or 2 weeks ago. I ended up streaming live on YouTube, and we were watching his video that he uploaded 2 months ago about why Bleach is a failure. Now, obviously, if you're on YouTube, this isn't like a super eye patch woof move. It's more like the title's more clickbait, and he actually likes the series. It's just he titled the video that way to get views. I mean, I don't really
I
care.
mean,
It's
look,
it's the YouTube game.
So what ha
it is in fact the YouTube game. I will say like a couple things though. I think if I had to give this video like an extended title, it would be like "Why Bleach is a Failure" (parentheses to me). But it's not as fun as just "Why
Mhm.
Bleach is a Failure." People like I want to get this out of the way before like we even get into the weeds with this video. So you'll notice the runtime is like 22, 23 minutes, right? That was me cutting down roughly 6 hours of footage.
Jeez.
Yes, so this is, like, hyper cut down. That's why you'll notice, if you look closely in the video, my lighting changes, the camera, zoom changes, like, everything changes. Like, at what point, like, in between timestamps, like, I got food that I was eating, and, like, this was an all-day thing. So I just I was going off the cuff too. So, like, that's my big disclaimer. Like, if it seems like some of my points don't connect or something, is a little jarring, purely from like an editing standpoint, not necessarily like a content standpoint. That is why.
Mhm.
So just like keep in mind, these 22 minutes you're seeing are like 5% of the total amount of footage.
Yeah, and something that I also want to get out of the way is because a lot of people, obviously because of the title, a lot of people came in with hate, posted a lot of roasts in the comments, and said a lot of stuff. And I think when you do have a title like that, they do somewhat when they do come in, like you should be expecting that, of course, because like
Yeah,
heck,
no, I
yeah,
don't care.
yeah,
It was more like I just figured I like how to say this. I figured we were all on the same page that like
yeah.
this was all for fun, more or less. So even if I did get something
Mhm.
wrong, it's not like my video was, a super eye patch wolf situation where it was like, I wish it was. I'll be real. I am willing to take the heat if it was like a 5 million view video, But like for a 2,000 view video that like somebody was crying about on Twitter, it's not something I particularly wanted to take seriously
Mhm.
because like at the end of the day, they're just cartoons essentially. So, like, I don't know. I feel like some of these comments were way too aggressive for
The
my
issue
taste.
is when
Yeah.
people identify with a series. I mean, I used to identify with Bleach like this. I don't anymore. Luckily, as much as I love Bleach, when somebody criticizes Bleach, they aren't criticizing me. Like
Yeah. So
when you're discussing something, yes, you get stuff wrong. Yes, we're today. I'm going to point out some of the stuff I think you got wrong.
mm,
Some of the stuff that I think was opinionated. Some of the stuff that we might just disagree on. That whether it be wrong or right. But at the end of the day, most things are subjective. What you value in media is subjective. What you
100%.
think is
Yeah.
good, like yeah. So people like try to make claims like good or bad is objective. Did admit like previously almost with like as soon as the video started getting heat, people started
Mhm.
pointing out stuff. You immediately admitted that after retaking a look at the series, that 20 to 30% of your information is wrong.
Yes. So, like, let's get into that as well. Let's get into the context of like my response or whatever. I have not watched this video since like I uploaded it, which was 2 months ago.
Mm.
I haven't uploaded a video in the new year. I have that one coming up. I think this weekend. It's also going to be another Bleach video, which I might have to leave the internet after that one. But for that one, I did try to make it clear that it is 100% subjective. Like it is
Yeah.
just a taste thing, right? Is something I acknowledge that I think White Creams is a failure here. Where I fucked up in my messaging is that I didn't make it clear what was me saying like a definitive
Mhm.
statement or what was my opinion or what was like I didn't explicitly say something like this is what I would have preferred. which I think would
Yeah.
have gone a long way in some of the points I was
I don't.
making.
I hate how you people expect YouTubers to have to say that. I feel like a lot of the time it should be implied that something is an opinion. Now, I do think
I
when it comes to some of the statements you make, there are a few that I do think can be put
are
into
just
that
wrong.
category and
Yes.
are just wrong. And we're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
I think it's a little closer to 40-ish% than 20 to 30. But again, we'll get into that. We can discuss it.
Mhm.
We can talk about. I
Yes.
mean, you've seen my
It's
stream, I think, right?
Yes, I watched
Yeah.
all of it. So yeah, it actually because of your stream, like I'll be real, like the only reason I did this or like I talked to you is because like you were like you did it in such good faith, like you
Mhm.
weren't a weirdo about it. Like some of the people that were just coming, disliking and just I don't know, hate rating my comments or whatever. I was like, oh, this seems like you're being very charitable, and like I really appreciated that. So like
Yeah, man.
uh, I felt safe coming here, is what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a safe environment. Like, it's at the end of the day, as much as I respect Kubo, as much as I love Bleach, and as much as Bleach has given to me, at the end of the day, it's just going to be a matter of perspective on a lot of the things. And we'll get into that as things go on.
Kind of set the standard for every criticism I have moving forward. It is because I see so much wasted potential, not because I hate the series. It's just
Mm-hmm.
very frustrating. That's literally where 99% of my complaints come from. Like, especially with like the Thousand Year Blood War arc. But that's just a thing with Kubo's health, so I don't like dock him points for that as much. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, right? I'm like Fullbringer. I hate Fullbringer with like every fiber of my being because I see the specter of what it could have been,
I
and it just bugs me.
This is just my perspective, you know.
Mhm.
When you're not the manga artist, so like an artist like can take their story to completely different directions. I mean, I could take any story and say I would have preferred this event going this way. I see wasted
Mhm.
potential in this character, and heck, I do. I've done that with Naruto. I've done that with parts of One Piece. I've done that. Heck, I'm very well known to do that with One Piece, especially with Fishman Island, where I've
I
really
love One Piece.
no, I love
Like
it
I would
too. I
probably
love it
just
too.
yeah.
I really wanted a scene after Marineford before like in Fishman Island where Luffy was really emotional. I'm not gonna spoil, but coping over the death of that individual with his
Mhm.
crew. I wanted that scene where he was with his crew and they were talking about what happened.
Me
But we
too.
never got it. But that's me
Mhm.
nitpicking something that Oda just decided not to show. So yeah. I get what you mean, but at the same time I think there was also plenty of potential that was fulfilled. And if you want, the light novels actually expound on certain things that you do talk about in your
Literally,
video that lacks.
I have the light novel right there. It's on display.
Uh-huh.
Look at that. And I got the first one. The first light novel, by the way, insanely hard to come by. I saw some guy mark it
Mm.
up on eBay for like $150, barely used. Asshole.
I have all
But like
three
it's
on
been
my shelf right there.
yeah, it's been sold out like everywhere, and I just recently got my hands on it for like $4 over MSRP, but I was like, fuck it, I'm never gonna get a chance to get it this low again.
I didn't like, but I'm going to try as best as I can to refrain from giving you the things I didn't like in every single section because otherwise we'd be here forever. Instead, I'm going to save all my grievances for one
Bro.
specific section of this video where I'm just going to say, hey, here's what I hated about Bleach because
I'll say one thing about that section that I did, and this is a little bit of a nitpick. I feel like you didn't save most of your criticism for the end, and in fact, there was a lot more geared throughout the review. But you said
I'm
like this
aware.
was like 6 hours long, so
Yes, it
I
was.
assume. So yeah, I felt that was my one major thing when I was watching the video and I saw it. And I was like, hey, that's not really.
Yeah.
now without further ado, let's
In
get
fact, if
Get
anything,
in line.
I agree with this section far more than I agree with a lot of other sections where you do give your.
But, they never bring up hell again until this year in July. But my criticism would have been totally fair for the last 4 years since Bleach ended. So for the Substitution Nagami arc, yeah, all these cool concepts are introduced and stuff, but there's not much more to it. I'm happy that the arc was so short because it kind of offset some of the dullness of it. It's standard, is what I'm going to say. So I'm going to give this arc a 7 out of 10. Fine introductory arc, nothing really to write home about. Anyway,
There's not really much to say about that. I mean,
Yeah. Hell thing.
Yeah.
I was like, I made that very clear. I said it's not a criticism retroactively because of the new chapter. Had it been had I made that criticism prior to that chapter, it would have been a fair
here's
criticism.
the funny.
Which I 100.
Yeah, Bleach fans actually did criticize Hell not being brought up again. But now that we got the Hell arc, we know, hey, Hell's always been around, through the Hell
Yeah.
butterflies and all that.
let's move
So
on to Soul
Yeah.
Society.
I don't know how it
Anime-
could have been said better. Like,
is in Soul Society, for example, elements that were brought up in the Substitute Soul Reaper arc, like helping deceased souls pass on, were more or less abandoned in favor of the political thriller of what was going on in Soul Society.
So I do want to say that that is what's happening, but it's just a theme shift. Like the main theme of the first arc was supposed to be about grief,
Yeah,
overcoming
no,
grief, because
I literally even said like I don't mind this shift. I'm
exactly.
just acknowledging that there is one.
Ichigo discovering his identity. The first arc was about grief. The second arc, of course, resolve. So
Reapers being these people that guide on hollows in the afterlife, but at the same time, it just deviated all that and went to a straight up battle shonen. All they did was just throw hands.
So that's why I kind of disagreed with. I didn't think it was just like throwing hands or like a normal battle shonen, because it felt more thematic than anything. Each battle felt like it built off of something.
Like if I had to revise that statement, I would say I do not mind this shift. In fact, if anything, I love that shift because I like battle manga, right? I found it really funny, which is how I should have like presented it. I just found it really funny that like all these attacks kind of happened pretty consecutively after each other, and like people didn't stop dying, or like hollows didn't stop, appearing on Earth and stuff, and like you still need Soul Reapers to do their jobs, right?
Yeah.
It was just supposed to be an amusing anecdote that I think kind of got lost in editing.
Okay, and again, it was also 6 hours, but kind of because I remember you bring that up later. So, you know what? We'll watch it, and then I'll bring up my statement.
Every 5 seconds, and normally I wouldn't even get annoyed at that because like I like that, right? But at the same time, it's like, yo, don't you guys have jobs to do? Like humans and hollows didn't stop dying, they didn't stop existing. I'm sorry, I just have to bring this up. You did not need so many people fighting Ichigo over this.
So captains and lieutenants are not needed in the world of the living. They're supposed to stay in the Soul Society. They're supposed to be there for like a major threat. It's their seated officers and their and the Shinigami beneath those that leave the Soul Society and leave. And
this was referring to Ichigo and his friends' infiltration, like when they first came into Soul Society. So the captains were already there. I just didn't think Ichigo was enough of a threat, especially Ichigo and his friends were enough of a threat to like warrant an entire like Yamamoto assembling the captains and everything. Like,
so to put this in perspective real quick, this is what the captains knew about Ichigo. One, Gin was unable to kill him. Now, of course, this is part of Aizen's plan, but Gin was unable to kill Ichigo, so they thought he was a captain threat. Two, this is the first time that the Soul Society has been invaded in hundreds of years, if not longer. I can't remember the exact time, but I know it was said. And three, later on, the reason why the threat escalates so much is because they genuinely believed that Ichigo and his friends was why Captain Aizen died. That they killed them. So I hope that...
I thought the Aizen thing happened at like the middle point. I'd say like post Ikaku fight, but like around the Kenpachi fight. Yeah.
So like the initial response was big and threatening but it wasn't like captains weren't getting involved at that point. And also they still had a ban on certain actions, like releasing your Zanpakuto in those restricted areas that get lifted once Aizen dies. And that's the reason why the threat and why the captains start coming in, because they think that these people were responsible for a captain's death. And that's why there's that escalation of power kind of there, because now they're starting to realize, okay, these people are big shots, or they at least think they're big shots. Even though, yes, Yamamoto could come in and defeat Ichigo like that, he just didn't think that Ichigo was powerful enough to kill a captain. And then he thought so. Some captains started getting involved.
I can understand it from that perspective. Like, honestly, I've noticed on rereads and stuff, because after that recording session, it took like 2 weeks to edit. And at the time, obviously, when I have to like pull all this, panels and footage and stuff, I just like end up rereading or rewatching because it's fun. And I was like, fuck, I have to cut this part out. I have to, like, if people are mad at this version of the video, oh my god, dude, you are not like prepared for the uncut version of this fucking, there was so much misinformation. Like that was a Clyde level threat kind of video, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean 698 chapters is the length of the Bleach manga. So I mean it makes sense that you'll get a few things wrong here and there, especially in the early arcs.
But like the problem I realized I ran into is that Kubo is like subtle to a fault in his writing. Like almost too subtle, like unreasonably subtle. Like he is a 5 rereads kind of mangaka. You know what I mean? It's ironic actually. My problem presenting my points in that video was me being probably not as clear as I should have been, or like I should have been more clear. And my beef with Kubo is that it was the same fucking beef. So it was like kind of a little circle there.
Yeah. So what did you think about the whole like captain statement, kind of like with how the slow escalation came up?
No, like I first of all, I really enjoyed it, right?
Yeah.
Like it was a really fun thing to watch, and I that does make more sense. And I think a lot of that, like a lot of my corrections that are pretty recent, like within the controversy of this video coming out, have just been me like saying, "Oh yeah, Kubo did actually do that," or that was just like
Mhm.
something really subtle that I'm just now picking up all these months later. So we'll get to it. We'll cross that
I
bridge when we
mean,
get to
I
it.
mean, I get it because like the subtlety in Bleach is absolutely insane. Like you take a look at White's introduction, for example.
Mhm.
He's smiling when he meets Ichigo. Like he's ready to fight him. He's excited to fight him. But if you look at just a tiny bit to the left to his Zanpakuto, there is a reflection of his smile that is in like that is extremely sad and upset that he has to fight Ichigo.
Now, hey, what are the people in Soul Society? Like, what are they? Because there's Soul Reapers in the Serite, right? But then, like, there's people on
Oh,
the outside.
You don't need me to answer
so
this, right?
yeah, I want to provide further context to what I meant by the
Mm-hmm.
question because I think "what are they" is kind of a dumb way to phrase that. The question I had was, what are they like that they are still able to have physical bodies with like blood and stuff, but they're still considered like souls, right? So are they then new beings, or are like souls in Soul Society just like humans, like plus?
They're basically humans. For example, a Shinigami has a Soketsu chain. Byakuya tries to. In fact, Byakuya does break Ichigo's. So yeah, so pretty much they are souls. Yeah, that's really all it is. They're just humans. They're dead.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like I actually have a larger beef with the afterlife system in Bleach. That is very like I kind of touched on it in this video,
mhm,
but I didn't expand on it correctly, and it just came off as me
yeah.
being like bitter. So
So
I'm
when
really
they,
mad about that.
if you're confused on what happens when they do die, I can help you with that.
No, like I
Oh,
get that.
okay,
Like
yeah,
it's basically just like a reincarnation cycle unless
yeah.
they're over a certain level of power. Like no, I get that part. I was just kind of confused that in like my hierarchy of assessing what I like about a series, like I'm a fucking world building
Mm-hmm.
psychopath, dude. Like that's why I am so weird about it in this section of the video is because like every unturned stone to me just drives me ballistic. It's like a
Yeah,
no, I have to know every finer. That's why I love One Piece so much because like I get the feeling Oda is also that psychotic about his world
yeah.
building. So it's kind of like just me being completely indulgent, right? And I'm like, Bleach is about 2/3 of One Piece's run, so the fact that I can't be as indulgent with my favorite part of like storytelling is very frustrating. So I think
Yeah,
that's why I got so heated.
Bleach is definitely I think I love Bleach's world a lot, but I think
Mhm.
Bleach is far more a character-driven story than a world-driven story,
I know. Oh my god.
which is what I prefer.
It's world building is so cool though.
It is so cool, and that's why I think you're gonna really like Camp for Your Own World.
Yes. That is like my main motivation. Somebody's like, "Oh, it expands the lore and world building." I was like, "Okay, I'm sold. Where do I buy it?" Like,
Specifically the world, and you're gonna love that.
yes.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yes.
You're gonna
I'm
love
very
the world
excited.
building.
Oh,
Yes.
outskirts. And why is there a class system in the afterlife? Why? Why are some people poor? Is there money
Okay.
in heaven? Like, what is going on here?
So this was another big thing that I want to like
Mhm.
correct slash detract, right? And it's also one of the things that a lot of people commented about. Oh, I appreciate that. Um, so I kind of I fucked up here, straight up.
Mhm.
I accidentally got my wires crossed with what I would prefer versus like what the story is.
Yeah.
So I interpreted Soul Society as like heaven when I should have interpreted as like a part of the afterlife, right? It's
Mhm.
just part of a system. So because of that, I kind of enforced my preconceived notions of like heaven. It like why is there money, et
Yeah.
cetera, and not oh yeah, this is just like this bitch goes on, you know.
Yeah.
It's like life part two.
The
So
class system in Bleach is so enticing in my opinion. Like it is the main driving aspect that's political that gets brought up later on in the series. It's especially brought up in the light novels later on. But the
mhm,
answer to your money question, I think I said it inside the live stream. In chapter 13, it explains money a little bit further. It does so in the Thousand Year Blood Work as well in some chapters, and then in the light novel, it expresses money a lot more. So yeah.
yeah, so I'm very excited to see that. But Another thing I want to acknowledge is
Mhm.
like it was the only thing I wanted to push back on from your reaction, which was like whenever you'd bring up the light novels, it's kind of like it's supplemental material, not main manga canon. Like it's not literally in the manga, right? So you would kind of have to ascribe a certain level of like, oh yeah, it's not in the manga, it's in the light novels. Therefore, like if it's not like the main source material, like if it's not explicitly written in the main
Mhm.
source material, and that's like all I used as a reference, then like I feel like oh, it's in the light novel is while it is like a good response, it defeats the purpose of absorbing the manga as a piece of work on its own. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing. This I think everything. So let me before I get into that. The class system and money, in my opinion, gets expanded enough inside the main story. But like
Mhm.
as for later on stuff that I do say, oh, it's in the light novels. Have you read the interview between Kubo and the author of the light novels?
No.
So pretty much the reason behind Camp for Your Own World is Kubo was very sick in the Thousand Year Blood War arc. And
Mhm.
because he was sick, there was still concepts that he wanted to use and bring up later on. So he
Mhm.
basically told Viz that he was gonna quit, pretty much stop writing his manga in 2 years. Viz
Okay.
said, "Would you be okay if we ended the manga in 1 year, but then you got a bunch of light novels to expand your story?"
Okay.
So then Kubo decided to end the manga 1 year later. Pretty
Mhm.
much, he was very sick during this time. He just wanted to be done.
Mhm.
Anyway,
I know that part.
yeah. So Kubo
Yeah.
ended the manga with the context that the light novels were going to be a continuation of the manga.
Yeah, but that's, like, outside knowledge that, like, I did not know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So when you're
So, like
reviewing the manga, but when I'm like saying, well, it's in the light novels, I'm talking about the overarching story of Bleach
or
because
yeah.
the way
No,
I,
I
oh, okay,
understand that, right? And, like, I do plan like, I have very strict plans to, like, read the light
uh,
novels if, like, we couldn't tell by this
yeah,
conversation so far. Yeah, I just meant it more in the context of, like, uh uh, levying, a response to, like in my defense, like, and not in my defense, but like what is admittedly like a very bad take on my end. It's still just like a oh, it's in supplemental material in the
Mhm.
context that is not like just broadly known across the board by every single
Yeah.
person who consumes Bleach. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. The light
So
when
yeah.
I view Bleach as a franchise, I view it as one unit. So I view the
Mm,
light novels and the manga as one thing, not separate.
mm,
When I'm saying it's in the light novels, what I mean to say is you haven't read it, so I understand where your criticism is coming from, but it is
mm.
expanded upon later on in the story, or was initially
Uh,
supposed to be expanded upon in the manga. It just wasn't. But like a lot of the time when I do say it's in the light novels, I'm usually only referencing like that it gets expanded upon, but it's still
mm,
there and present in the story. Like the class system
okay.
is expanded upon throughout the manga. We meet some of the noble families. We meet how nobility kind of works, but it's not really expanded too far into until Camp for Your Own World, which is that expansion.
Mm,
So yeah,
yeah,
but I get
I
where you're coming from.
yeah, I just like again, I really appreciated it. I'm
Mhm.
very excited to read the light novels, right?
Yeah.
But like, how, if I wasn't, right, I think it would have been fine. Like if I was like, oh yeah, like my experience with Bleach is done at the manga.
Mhm.
I do think read the light novels is like it's basically like judging a whole. It's like judging a whole other story, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I do somewhat disagree to an extent, but I understand like your perspective, of course.
Mm,
I just think that like you could criticize the manga and say, "Hey, here's my issues with the manga," and then what I'm
mm,
saying is, well, for the whole of Bleach, for what Bleach is, there is that there. But yes, for the manga, your criticism could be valid. You know what I mean? But yeah,
yes,
I think
but
we
yeah,
both got our perspectives across.
yeah. I do fully acknowledge the point I've made
Yeah,
about the class system is just wrong. Like
yeah.
it's just a bad thing. Yeah.
It was
Like
just a mistake. Like
yeah,
I
straight up.
called
Like I
I called the Warden of Hell the Ambassador of Hell, dude. The comments wouldn't let that down, by
And
the way.
now, like, I don't even know if these details were just expanded upon in some other extended lore or whatever, but this is
wow.
just so crazy that Kubo never really went in depth to explain some of these aspects of the world he created. Yeah, I gotta chill out. This is like, I'm really trying here. Okay, so one of my other biggest annoyances in this arc has to be Ichigo's progression. It was a little too strange, okay? Now, I was careful to choose my words there because I'm of two minds with this one. Either Ichigo is this insanely powerful mutant that we all know him to be, and he just progresses like a wild animal, which, you know, for the most part, he does, and he has like ridiculously latent powers. But at the same time, there's also this other issue where he's kind of presented as slowly picking up and building his strength to fight progressively stronger opponents, and he's working his way up the ladder. And the best way I could actually describe this issue can be boiled down to this statement. Ikaku had a Bankai. What? Why didn't he use it? Ichigo's an intruder. He infiltrated the highest, well-guarded part of heaven to do a criminal act in freeing Rukia. Seems like good.
So, you know what? There's like layers to this one, so let's break it down bit by bit. You start what you want to tackle first.
Well, Ichigo's progression.
Okay, so the full point I was trying to make, but I couldn't really articulate in a very efficient way, was there's this beef I have with this is purely 100% subjective, and it's one of the things I felt like I should have. Another thing I felt like I should have made clear as like this is just my own personal opinion / taste. When it came to Ichigo's powers, I have like this really kind of bloodthirsty attitude to it, and like, it's like if his name is not Aizen or Yawatch, like the characters, then Ichigo should essentially one-shot every other living creature in the Bleach universe. So, when it came down to, I think the biggest scene that like got to me was when he came down to Soul Society during the Quincy attack, like after finally getting out of that cage. I was like, okay, cool. So half the Quincy's are going to die in a single panel, right? Because that is the gap that I'm expecting here. Because Ichigo is like a very irregular shonen protagonist, in my opinion, and that like his progression and his power scale is just so explosive that it's not like fucking Luffy, right? He doesn't have to learn A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc., right? Like he is very much like okay, I'm going from A to E to like Q, etc. So the fact that like Ichigo was, I don't know if it was merciful or like the opponents were just like, I don't know, 80% worth of his power or something, was just something that like even now I'm still getting a little like bitter about, because like it's just, to me it is not what I like, what I how I say this. I do wish Ichigo was more bloodthirsty. That is just my own personal taste about Bleach. So I was getting really, I was like trying to think of it from like Kubo's perspective, and I was like, okay, obviously having Ichigo one shot everybody that isn't the main villain would be bad writing. I get that, I do. But at the same time, he's almost like, it's hard to convince me that like any threat that isn't like the final boss is like a serious threat. And I think the only exception to this was like Aizen, right? Because he had to like, the way he beat Aizen was straight up hacks, and I love that, right? Like that was a very like one and done, never repeat that for any other villain moving forward kind of situation, right? Love that. But when it came to like random Sternritter, like not random, but like fodder, in my opinion, fodder Sternritter compared to Ichigo, I was like, none of these people should be alive. Like none of them.
That's fair. I think like the issue that Ichigo ran into is there was just too many of them. Like you, like at the end of the day, the way I think it's more so like Ichigo's a character that you're wanting a different character to be the protagonist. If that makes
I
sense.
feel like, yes, I think that's a pretty good way to say it. Like, I generally like Ichigo, right? I think he is. I stand by the statement. He is the only shonen MC who doesn't have rocks for brains. Like,
yeah,
love that about him, right?
and
And he's also not very heroic. He's more like utilitarian in his approach to justice. He's just like, oh, saving people good, like you hurting people bad. Let's. I'm gonna stop that, right?
to a degree,
But
he's like self-centered in the senses he really until until Thousand Year Blood War, to a degree, he was only wanting to save those who were closest to him. Thousand Year Blood War, sure, Rukia was in danger, but at the end of the day, that was like a whole place. It was a little different, which is what made it somewhat unique. But like Soul Society of Rancor, he was wanting to save people who are closest to him. He didn't care about, say, X, Y, and Z in the grand scheme of things. So yeah.
So yeah, like I always understood Ichigo as a guy who just like above all else just wanted to save as many people as he could, right? And I came at it from like a 100% like face value thing where I was like, okay, that is his only motivation. So in every context of like every fight he had, especially with Ukiura, which is going to be, I touch upon that in my next video, like very briefly, but I don't like, that bit at the end of the fight where Ichigo's like, if I cut off an arm and a leg, it'll make the fight fair, yada yada yada. You know what I'm talking about? Where like, after the Vassalordi thing, yeah. I got a little skeeved by that because I was like, Ukiura dying is 100% a thing that benefits you, right?
Yeah.
The removal of his continued existence is a net positive. So the fact that like he would drag it out, even the possibility of Ukiura surviving another second in this plane of existence was just like a bad like tactical move as far as I understood it. Like more people would be in jeopardy. The first thing Yami and Ukiura did when they first appeared was consume like 50 people in a random part.
Yeah.
Like so for me, I was like, okay, every Arrancar needs to die. Not from
Yeah.
like a hateful perspective, but from like a practical. They're like them existing is the
Yeah.
problem.
From the logical standpoint, it's
Yeah.
just I think that's more so like a mass and this is just my take on it, of course. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing this as respectful as possible. I hope. I hope none of
Feel
what I
free
say
to
is
disagree.
disrespectful.
Yeah.
But
No,
Ichigo as a
I
character,
100%
yeah.
feel I don't feel disrespected at
All
all.
right, good. This was built up for a very long time. Byakuya versus Ichigo, especially. Ichigo
Huh?
as a character wants to win himself. You
Right.
see, his fight with Ukiura was personal. His fight with Byakuya was personal. His fight against Grimmjow was even personal, where he learned that he came not just to save Ohime, but because he genuinely wanted to defeat Grimmjow. Like, after everything Grimmjow did to him in the past. So, the scene where he's like, I don't want to win like this. Cut off an arm and a leg, because Ukiura is just like saying, kill me, otherwise this battle will never be over. And he's like, I don't want to win like this. This whole personality trait and his actions there are all foreshadowed and shown throughout his character, especially in the Byakuya fight when he has that inner hollow and he rips it off. Even though he could have left it on and absolutely destroyed Byakuya, him with the inner hollow power scales way above Byakuya Kuchiki. Way above. I mean, you saw like the second it appeared, like that inner hollow was absolutely demolishing Byakuya, and that's what turned the tide of the battle. But he wanted to win himself, even though in all practicality he could have let the inner hollow defeat Byakuya and then taken it off. But his whole goal, his enemy, and who he wants to defeat, he wants to defeat them himself. Granted, with certain situations, yes, he would have let the inner hollow control, like to a degree. But like Vastolorde was such a tragic moment in his life that he feared his own powers, and you see that as the story progresses because he wants to win. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's just I feel like there is some of that misunderstanding, and it's totally subjective. It's more so you saying I wish his character was more this way, but it's not. It's not like
So I would say half like 80% is I wish it was this way, and 20% is this is only in regards to like one-shotting everybody that isn't, the villain of the arc. Why can't he? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they're stronger than you think. That's all I'll kind of say to that. When the Sterners as a force are all stronger than you think, they're a lot closer to certain individuals. You watch may look easy because he had his blood inside of them, but like they're still somewhat relatively powerful to where they can't just be one shot, especially when they're all together. Like especially the girls, like all those girls together,
yes,
they have worked together. They are a team, and
right. But
yeah.
like, so I think they're also the prime example because like I think if I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think Ichigo is like way stronger than Kenpachi, right? Like that's not a controversial statement,
They're
right?
closer than most people think.
Still, he has the
Yeah.
edge, right?
So he
So
wins overall.
yeah, and Kenpachi only struggled with them because of his like intense fight with Grammy that he like after being like thrown into outer space and having like half his organs
Yeah.
basically shredded, right? Ichigo came in fully healthy, like fully energized, fully fine, and the fact that they weren't all like in pieces, like that is just like the way I would read that in that situation because it didn't happen is okay. If all four of them went to like I don't know attack Iwachi or something, they would put up a decent fight, which is just not the case because we saw when one of them like went to go square off with him. I think two of them went to square off with Iwachi. He just it was off screen, like it was literally like they were not even remotely conceptually of a challenge to him, right? But Ichigo like was. So for me, I was like,
It was the collective
make it
of
make
all of them
sense.
there, and also Ichigo didn't want to fight them. He wanted to quickly save Kenpachi and then get to Yuach. That was his
Yes,
goal
but
and
like
initiative.
I know, but like my take is always like it wasn't gonna be a fight.
Oh
It
no,
was going to
I
be
think it would have been. I think it would have been a short fight.
really.
I think it would have lasted a little bit of time. His goal was to get to Watch as quickly as possible. I think would he have killed them? Yes. At what expense? He might have this insane amount of Ryatsu. We might have not seen it before. But characters do get tired. Characters do eventually lose all their Ryatsu. Take a look at Ichigo in his fight against after Ukiura when his Ryatsu was down to like the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
That level of Ichigo was the level of a captain. So that is insane. That's powerful, but he wasn't as full because he had already been in all those fights. His Ryatsu was drained. He wanted to be as full against Yuwatch, and he wanted to save Kenpachi, and then he wanted to just get to Yuwatch. That's why when everybody came in to fight their individual battles, it was good timing because Ichigo couldn't get to Yuwatch the fastest way possible without fighting them. And he was just trying to get away to get to Yuwatch because that was his goal at the end of the day. Remember, this is an Ichigo that just found out this man's the man behind his mother's death.
Yes, I completely understand it, and I think that's a point I should have made clear. I 100% understand the way the direction of the story went. I understand the like reasoning behind it. I just don't prefer it that way.
Oh no,
I
get it. I get it.
Yeah. So okay, if you couldn't one shot them in base, he could have one shot them in True Shikai, but it would have been so fast. This one shotting of all these characters that, in my opinion, it wouldn't have consumed that much Ryatsu because he would have turned it off like immediately after.
Well, there was more than just the 4 girls there. There was a lot of stern power there. But yeah.
I know I'm just being like,
No,
this is not like an Ichigo who is like twice a captain level or anything. Like this was like a fully realized he was the guy, you know what I mean?
No, I get what you're saying. I just think in the context of it makes sense why he was the way he was. I think it's more so just power scaling and how one interprets the power levels of certain characters, if that makes sense. You also have to realize that Yuwatch is like the father of these Quincy's, so the one of the reasons why he can just swipe his hand and take life from one of them is because he in their blood
like he removed their
like he could snap his fingers and suck them all up using Osweilan Light, for example. He did that with the Shitstoffel.
Yeah, what is the Quincy Bankai called?
Volstan.
Yeah, so he removed all their Volstanding. That's just how I say it. He removed it, and so they were fighting essentially without Bankai, which I thought was a really funny parallel to how the arc started.
Yeah.
With the Soul Reapers getting their Bankai stolen. So, shout out to Kubo's parallel writing.
Cause to use your fucking Bankai. It's
I forgot about that one. Ikaku's
Bankai. Yeah, so yeah, I get it. Just part of his character. I didn't notice that I made this mistake mentally, but when I kind of referenced Ikaku, I think it was in a tweet or something that I deleted like immediately after confirming. Some guy was like, "Oh, Ikaku hasn't used his Bankai since that fight," and I was like, "No, yes, he has." And then I went to look it up, and I was like, "Oh my god, he hasn't! What the fuck am I remembering?" And I realized I was remembering scenes from the fucking movie.
Yeah.
So I was like, shit. So that was just human brain moment.
No, it's all good.
So with that in mind, I think I want to give Soul Society a solid 8.5 out of 10 maximum. I think.
Do you stick with that rating?
Yeah, I still stick with that rating. Can't believe what most of this video is just so psychotic to me in retrospect. Just watching it like calmly, I guess. With the benefit of hindsight, it was the entire video's premise basically boils down to this: I hate this with every fiber of my being. 9 out of 10.
No, I feel like it's just there are always gonna be those small grievances that you have with everything. You're not that far off from my scores of some of these arcs. I gave Substitute Shinigami manga. Oh wait, this is a question I had. Did you read the manga or did you watch the anime?
Combination.
Okay.
I always do that with every series. So my rule is I'll watch the anime unless the arc is either so unpleasant or the anime's pacing is so ass or there's too much filler that I'll just read the manga.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. So with your first arc, I think you gave it a 7. I gave that arc an 8. Mm-hmm. With the second arc, you gave it an 8.5. I gave it a 9. So it's not even that big.
I think it was really, really good. So after Aizen's betrayal, we learned that he had taken over Mundo, this kind of purgatory for hollows, and he had built up his own little team of genetically modified hollows that he calls Arankars. Now these things are basically the product of a bunch of really, really strong.
Small little thing. It's I don't think it's a big error, but like they're called Arankars. He didn't call them Arankars.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I think
so
there's
that
one
was
other
yeah.
thing.
Learned that he had taken over Hueco Mundo, this
It's
kind
a
of
nitpick,
purgatory
so
for
I don't
hollows,
really
and
care.
he had built up his own little team of
Mhm.
genetically modified
Can't
hollows
remember
that
what
he
it
calls
was.
Arankars. Now, these things are basically the product of a bunch of really, really strong hollows
If
who
I
have
hear it
consumed
again,
other
I'll
hollows to
remember.
take their initial form, being
Mhm.
beefed up by this thing called the Hogyoku, which Aizen is using to create more of them and essentially elevate
God.
to the next stage
Dude, I
in
hate
evolution to
recapping
transcend beyond
so
the gods. Now, the
much.
thing that I really like about Aizen in general as a villain is
Oh,
that
yeah. This is more of a fun fact. So the Hokyoku that Aizen made, that using Kisuke's Hokyoku, you know,
Mhm.
and his own, that only made Wonder Weiss. All the other Arankars were made years and years ago using his incomplete Hokyoku.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
So was that expanded material, or was
No,
that like?
it's in the series. It's just again something very
Oh,
subtle. So like you see him having his own
yeah.
Hokyoku, and you see him creating things like White, the Vastalorde White,
So why did
for
he
example,
consider his Hogyoku a failure compared
because
to
he couldn't
Kisuke's?
fuse with it. He couldn't become a god.
Oh, okay. That was it. But otherwise, it was like successful.
Yeah, his goal wasn't to create an army of Espada. That was more so him just trying to like trick people into thinking what he's doing. You know,
Yeah,
his goal was to become a god that reached the
yeah.
top, which is
Dude,
why it
Aizen,
was a failure.
Aizen is legitimately my favorite Bleach character.
I mean, that's fair. He's my second or third.
aside from his
My favorite is Ski Ichimaru.
general demeanor and personality, his cold, calculated nature
Wow.
in that
Okay,
he's always 6, 7
unexpected.
steps
Okay.
ahead, and supposedly her arc, it's even worse for Urahime and Arankars. If we were to take this conclusion all the way to its natural end and assume that Arankar was meant to be Urahime's arc, then I ask you, in what way? In what way did this arc help us learn more about
Wait, you
Urahime,
see
her
that
character,
little
her
lighting
motivation?
change? That was like
Yeah.
3 hours difference. Yeah.
So I'm not gonna bring up this Ohime point mostly because I'm actually working on a video about this Ohime point, not because of you, but because of another video that was made on
Oh,
Ohime. I disagree,
I
but
can
we
just
can get into that later. Like we can,
so
you
yeah,
elaborate yourself enough. It's just I disagree, and I have my own points brought up. But
yeah.
I'm not gonna get into that because I have that video I'm working on.
Motivations,
So
Okay.
yeah,
really like almost anything about
but
her.
yeah.
There's stuff like the thing with Ichigo, for example, right, where she was given this like weird fixation / fear that Ichigo would
You
become
can
a
fast
hollow,
forward
and
through
I
this
remember
bit. I can just quickly sum up the Urahime thing. I don't like Urahime as a character because I don't like her character, not because I think
Mhm.
she was a badly written character.
Can I say one? There is one thing I wanted to bring up because I remember
Mhm.
it like was a specific thing. So Ohime's whole reason for freaking out that Ichi was now a hollow is because her brother was a hollow. It was
Was her brother?
PTSD.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I understood that. Like in retrospect, I just didn't
yeah,
like. It's one of those things that I just don't care about because I don't like her, so I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
like. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, like it's not like you think that she's poorly written. It's more so you don't like her.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I see her for the character she's like written
Mhm.
as. I acknowledge that like some people may like that. I agree that it's pretty good writing characterization on Kubo's end. I just don't like she's such a good character that she feels like a person, but she would not be a person I would get along with in real life.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
how I would.
some
There we go.
truly
Yeah.
amazing, like well-written that I get from this arc is that there were characters that were explained as like being a fullbringer, but Urahime's
Ow.
bizarre.
I think
They're
I
actually
skipped too
bizarre. That should
far.
have been a whole thread. Urahime's powers are just weird. They're never explained. Even Chad's powers are
Ohime's powers are full burn.
explained as like being a fullbringer,
Really?
but
Yeah.
Urahime's never. And it turns out even Aizen doesn't give a shit on Ukiura. And I feel like people are going to hate me for saying this, but Grimjaw and Ukiura got way more attention and character development than Gin ever did in the last 2 arcs combined. And that's a shame, honestly. I would have liked to have seen more of him and why he chose to go down the path he chose, aside from his like supposedly sequel
So
for Hogyoku,
pause here.
which was like fairly.
So I understand the counter argument people made on this point where they're like, oh, but he couldn't get as much screen time because it kind of defeats the purpose of his character being a snake and the big reveal
Mhm.
and yada yada yada. And I'm like, yeah, but like he died like 2 chapters after his big move. You know what I mean? Like that's his entire character. Like that's his entire character right there. He has like what 14 chapters total, so it was really hard to like
Well,
care when he died.
I'd say more than that. I mean, I think he's built up quite a bit in Soul Society. Like he was the way that Kubo wrote Soul Society was like he was gonna be the main villain of the series.
I guess I didn't read it that way.
Uh like for example, it was implied like he was the one that killed Aizen, even though the Soul Society thought it was
Yeah, no.
Ichigo.
I understood all that. I just didn't believe it, and I guess that
Okay.
has to do with like like me getting to Bleach late. Like everybody fucking knows about Aizen the same way
Yeah.
everybody knows about Frieza. So I was like, oh, I didn't think Aizen's like reveal was like a reveal. Like I forgot that like it was probably meant to be like a very
Mhm.
tense, like,
Oh yeah,
what?
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And then like the same thing with like how I like Geen was shown like manipulating Rukia's emotions. He was shown like as the snake, as this evil villainous guy. I think like it is a matter of like, oh, you want more of him. I think that defeats the purpose of his character personally. I agree with the comments, but like that's just
Because
like how what you want.
I
I
I did think he was cool, which
hmm,
is why I wanted more of him.
The secret love for Rengiku, which was like barely teased. I don't know, man.
barely teased. I disagree with that because like I think I literally have I have the chapters written down so I would be more specific. So Rangiku has a flashback about Gin in the Soul Society chapter 129. A flashback very early on of him helping Rangiku. He says Gin says sorry to Rangiku as well. And when Toshiro versus Gin does happen in chapter 132 and 133, it's not until Rangiku stops and then Gin looks extremely saddened at Rangiku. So it was really implied that something was going on, the fact that he was saying sorry to this random girl. And as it approaches the event inside of Bleach, as it approaches his actual betrayal, it's especially referenced in the Ichigo fight. Like, you know something's going on with Gin because like Ichigo's literally saying, I have no idea why you're fighting. I can't feel the emotion coming out of your sword.
Oh. No. I don't know. Maybe I'm sorry, it's just cool, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
With Geen, I don't really have any deeper opinions. Sorry to say, it's just I thought
Yeah.
he was cool, so I wanted
Yeah.
to see more of him. It wasn't like
Oh
there
yeah, no,
wasn't
no.
anything.
I was
Yeah,
more so just referencing the whole like he wasn't teased enough. That, but everything else, yeah, it's just like opinionated. That was
I
like my only
guess
thing.
I guess he wasn't teased enough by like my standard
What do you
or
think?
my,
Elaborate
uh
if you can.
like I personally would have preferred if that was the case to see more of Geen. I don't like like at the time I didn't mean it like this, but now I do. I don't disparage Kubo for not living up to my personal
Uh huh.
standards, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Like he did it however he wants.
Mm-hmm. I just don't.
So
I guess I just don't know how he could have been like. I think he foreshadowed Gin a lot at the very least. But yeah,
yeah.
let's
More of
just
him and why he
continue.
chose to go down the path he chose, aside from his like supposedly secret lover Rengiku, which was like barely teased. I don't know, man. Like I didn't like the
Yeah,
choice
that's
that
a
Gin
little
got. I
more
think he had potential to be
complex,
a far more
but
interesting
it's
character, especially
just
after his betrayal. Like
words.
even Tozen got far more development. And I think he got a really really nice arc, and in the end he was sort of like half redeemed. He had his Darth Vader
I like
moments with
Tozen.
his lieutenants. It just sucks
Tozen's
that the characters
great.
that were supposedly there. I don't even really have complaints about this arc. I just not for like one small nitpick I had with that Urahara and any of the Vizards could have just come to Yamamoto or whoever and just went to Soul
Yeah,
Society.
you already. I remember you acknowledged that
Mm-hmm.
point in your reaction. Cool.
Yeah.
Like this is my response to that reaction. Cool. I didn't know that. That changes my opinion. This arc went from a 9 to a 9.5.
Okay, I'm just glad it was such a brilliant way to go about ending the series. If I'm being honest, because Ichigo losing
Oh,
his power to
so
eating it.
this wasn't like this statement is like I stand by it, but I just want to expand on it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been okay if this was the end of the series, not I wanted this to be the end of the
Oh,
series.
okay. That's a lot better than Super Eye Patch Wolf's take, which is
Ah,
what people implied when you said that.
okay. Well,
Super
I
Eye
guess yeah.
Patch Wolf's take was that that should have been the end of Bleach.
Okay. Well, that's my clarification.
Yeah, I mean that's a major clarification. I would have been upset, man. I mean, I think I would still liked it, but what pushed Bleach into my number one spot was Fullbring 1,000-Year Blood War.
Well, brain should have detracted. Yeah, whatever.
uh,
I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. It continues a long-standing tradition on Bleach that has plagued it since day one of disrespecting my boy Chad, aka the motherfucker that's been a Fullbringer since day one. This arc would have been the perfect opportunity for Kubo to finally give Chad the spotlight, but God forbid anyone except Ichigo gets the spotlight.
I agree with the Chad take. That's my only grievance with Fullbringer personally. I know you have more, and we'll get to those as we finish this part. But my big grievance with Fullbringer is I do think it fails Chad. It explains his power amazingly. It goes really into depth with Fullbring as a
Yes.
power system, which has been explored previously, which is the main foreshadowing for this arc. But I feel like it did him a disservice. I would have really liked him and Ichigo tag teaming Ginjo in the end, like him somehow waking up, or I don't know what would have had to happen, but I really wish Chad had more in the arc because this is
So do I.
his arc, and he doesn't get enough in my opinion.
that he's like the show Sasuke, because the show Sasuke, Uryu, doesn't get any attention either. He's basically consistently gotten worse with every single arc that's progressed.
I disagree.
With
The
him
Uryu
getting
take.
attention, or the fact that I say he's the show Sasuke?
Well, both. Him. Oh no, I like with Uryu. I don't like comparisons like that. I guess personally, because I feel like there is no Sasuke for Bleach, and if anybody's the Sasuke for Bleach, I guess it would be Grimmjow maybe. But even then, like they're completely different. You know.
Yeah,
It's
that
a
was like
joke.
another point I realized later. Yeah, and it was just like hyperbole because everybody gets Sasuke. Like Sasuke has become like he stole Vegeta's mantle as like the rival character.
I feel like Uryu would work as that if he had kept with what he was in the first arc as like
Yeah,
this
so
character
like
that wanted that. Like he's like in the first arc
that's how
he's
he
like
was
Sasuke.
introduced. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's that, and also, just to kind of spare us a conversation when we get to Thousand Year Blood War about Uryu. Uryu was just kind of like he was handled infinitely better than Chad was in Fullbringer, but he still wasn't handled correctly in my opinion. There was some lore stuff that just didn't make sense, like why he survived the initial Ash Wallen, because he's not a full blood Quincy, which is what I thought the explanation was going to be. He's like 2/3 Quincy, right? And he's not like particularly special in any way that's been like shown. His bloodline isn't particularly special. He's just like lucky, I guess. Like whatever.
So the big thing with Uryu, I remember watching the podcast and seeing your take on that. The big thing with Uryu, for my opinion, is I mostly want to go to like the original point that you were making about him detiering. I think Uryu's at his best in Thousand Year Blood War. Like that's where I think Uryu's peak is. I think he has an amazing fight in Soul Society against Mayuri. And he would have actually become the show Sasuke if his entire goal changed from being who he was to fighting Mayuri. I think the one thing that would have made his character better, for me, Uryu is an A tier. I have friends who put him in S tier. But for me, I have Uryu up in A tier, like high A tier. The one thing that I think would have made Uryu that S tier is if he killed a captain.
Yeah, so
because that would have convinced the audience that he was on the Quincy side, 100%.
Not only that, but like, the more I'm explaining this, the more I rewatch this video, the more like I think about it, and especially now after like catching up to the One Piece anime, I understand now. Earlier in this video, when I said I think Bleach, Kugo, and me are just philosophically not on the same page, is like the main motivation for like 90% of the grievances I have with this series. It's just like, to me, it's just not. It's a great series that I enjoy for like world building, right? But it's not a series about world building or like other characters. Like on the whole, Bleach violates one of my rules about like how I enjoy shit, and one of my rules is the main cast, like this includes hero, villain, side characters, like immediate henchmen. They can't all fit in a single 6x6 room. That is like my biggest rule. Like if that happens, they are essentially the scope of the entirety of their universe.
Like it's not a right or wrong statement. It's more so just a
Yeah,
perspective. And I think we can both
yeah,
agree on that.
yeah. It's 100%
Yeah,
like
it's
just
like
my
what you
own
want from a
weirdness. Yes.
story.
Yeah.
And
So
like that's driven solely on your personal experience. It's not driven from anything else. So like I
nothing
think that's
else.
a major thing.
So every time I
Yeah.
got like heated in this video, right? It was just, I need you guys, or I guess to anybody listening who wants to rewatch that video with this context, it's me getting frustrated that a story with like 700-ish, a little less than 700-ish chapters does not have as deep and as expansive world building as I want.
Yeah.
Like
No.
that is
I get that.
fundamentally where my grievances come in.
I do believe that Bleach's world building is a lot deeper than like a lot of
Yeah,
shonen
no,
fans give it credit
I know,
for,
which is
but there
yes,
is key things lacking. For example, one of my biggest things is out of the 5 great noble clans, how many do we get named? We don't even have the name of all 5 great noble
yeah. Like
clans.
I want to know more about the Soul King's butchering. I want to know like what the hell, like is Iwachi even like really the son of the Soul King? Like where is that explicitly stated in the manga? Or like what the deal with his birth is, like how he came into being. I want to know like For example, like
And
the biggest thing that I want to know about Bleach, sorry, but like this is the biggest thing that like I think is missing from Bleach that I actively like get really annoyed with. Um, I want to know why it is that like Aizen is considered a bad guy aside from like his straight up manipulating and murdering and all this shit, right? Because he makes a great point about the fact that like the entire afterlife system of reality, right? In the context
mhm,
of the characters living in the Bleach universe, the afterlife they live in is the correct like 100% like irrefutable proof of what happens when you die, right?
exactly.
So the fact that it's corrupt or the fact that like Aizen wants to go in and like he sees like the fact that there is a broken system here that is ruled by like a monarch in the afterlife, it's kind of like it's horrific if you think about it. Imagine if like the real world's afterlife was run like that, right? And the
Mhm.
fact that like in the end the Soul Reapers win and the Soul Palace is still there, or not the Soul Palace, but like they find a workaround to the Soul King thing. To me, it's like just as horrific as like them win like them losing because like, dude, you saved corrupt heaven. Congratulations, you know?
Aizen, yeah, Aizen had the right goal. The issue was the way that he went about it
About it, yeah.
and
So
the
that's why
way
I
he
really love
handled.
Aizen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love Aizen. Like I
yeah,
low key think he's like one of the greatest villains ever written. In my opinion, he is the
yeah.
greatest villain. You probably think it's. Let me guess. Let me guess. Miriam.
No.
Really?
Um,
Oh my gosh! I was expecting you
Mer-
to be a Miriam fan.
no, I like Meruem, and like I definitely, I don't know how I feel about him compared to Aizen, just because Aizen's message or
They're
like his
completely
what he,
different.
yeah, like what he's fighting for is just fundamentally something I like more.
Mhm.
It's like,
Miriam's like more similar to like an
yeah,
Ukiora, I guess, or like
yeah, like
that, and that's a different
Aizen's,
discussion.
yeah,
Yeah.
Aizen resonates with me more as a person, but um. I had to think about like a big like who my favorite villain is. I don't know. I don't know. Like
hmm
I never really sat down to think about it.
I,
I don't have a favorite hero
yeah,
either.
I do think though one thing that Aizen did believe is he did want to stand atop. He wanted nobody to control him. That was one other
Yes,
thing in his motivation that was
yes.
somewhat
Hardest line.
flawed
That is my
but
favorite line.
understanding.
Yes.
Like that was where he came down. That was like because like the cool thing about Aizen is he has so many motivations. It's not like he has like
This,
one direct
this,
motivation. That's what makes him
like
such a compelling character.
uh, he has the right idea, but like his end goal just kind of it gets warped, and it's like, oh yeah, I need to be God. Not there shouldn't be like this weird corpse piloting the universe.
Yeah,
Whatever.
in his head he goes too far, but he has the right
Yeah.
idea of this. You'll learn. I can't say anything.
Yeah.
Let's just
Just
say, be
yeah.
excited.
Of this arc's entire like addition to the Bleach narrative as a whole has literally just been to give Ichigo back his powers. My personal take is that Fullbringer should have never
I
happened. They
kind
could
of
have honestly
disagree.
make up a way to get Ichigo his powers back without having to bring in the Fullbringers at all. 3 out of 10. I like their costumes. I don't know.
I disagree with that, but that's something I'm making a video on. That's kind of why I didn't kind of skipped over in my stream because I was making a video about it. Pretty much, I
Can
think
you give me like a
for the main narrative, Ichigo kills someone. That's something major that happens. Ichigo has a desire to go out of his way to murder someone.
why was that
Tsukishima.
someone Ginchao and not Tsukishima?
Because it changed. Ginjo was the one that Tsukishima was Ginjo's subordinate. So his whole concept changed to him wanting to. He killed Ginjo because he thought he had to. Pretty much there. That was his perspective. After everything that happened, after he was put in his deepest, darkest spot, that happens. Another thing that's revolutionary is his whole savior complex about his powers. He really realizes what it's like to have no powers. Originally, he was content with losing his powers. Was he sad to let Rukia go? Yes, but he was content with his powers disappearing. As the arc goes on, he realizes how much he cared about these powers and how much he needed them to protect, especially as he saw Ryu go to the hospital, especially like that whole scene of him breaking down crying hits me in the soul, man.
Hmm.
Um
Yeah,
it
it
also,
was great.
yeah,
But then Ginchao, like I think if Tsukishima was the villain through and through, it would have been like a 6 out of 10 arc. But the fact that it was Ginchao, fucking Ginchao,
I love
like
Ginjo.
ugh,
I have Ginjo
I
as an
hate
S tier
Ginchao.
villain.
I have him as a piece of garbage. Like I don't know, like
I
he's
mean,
not even.
here's the
Like, I don't
thing.
even want to call him a
It
character.
was about trust. Like that was another major concept in the arc was Ichigo trusted Ginjo far too easily. He thought that Ginjo
But
was
like it was so obvious. Like even as somebody who had no experience with Ginja or Fullbringer at all, I was like, oh yeah, this guy's the villain.
but a lot of
Like
people don't. Yeah. Like a lot of people who read the arc didn't. I did. personally, but that didn't take away from my enjoyment because I can look things through the perspective of Ichigo, who didn't. I mean, he was desperate. You have to realize that this man, his entire life, he was able to protect all these people, but now he can't. So he was
I
desperate to find power.
I I understand the themes of Fullbringer. I just ugh, you
And
know.
then another thing that's really big for me though was like Ginjo's whole character, him being a deputy Shinigami, that expanded the lore, that expanded the narrative. It made things different. This was a personal fight between Ichigo and the first deputy Shinigami, which we have known has existed because there's all these laws pertaining to deputy Shinigami at the
So
start
I
of the
want to know one
series.
thing. I want to know one thing. Did you also think it was lame as fuck that Kiriko's like whole awakened Ichigo boost was just like the Hulk but
Kiriko's
worse?
stupid.
Yeah.
That's my biggest that is my second. Sorry, I have two grievances with Fullbringer.
Mm-hmm.
Kiriko and
Mm-hmm.
also Jackie.
Mm.
I hate those two
Oh
characters to pieces.
no, I think like the one thing I respected about Fullbringer is that Kubo didn't break the power scale in that arc as much as he could have,
Mm-hmm.
and that like he still showed that these guys were coming off like an Aizen fight. You know, like Fullbringers were not a real threat.
Uh
Especially like, oh, that was the only other W Renji took in the series.
huh.
No, I just
Three
yeah,
actually. He took one in the
yeah,
wrong car against the Prever,
yeah,
not
and
the
he
Preverna Spada, but
yeah,
the
and
Frasier.
he married Rukia. So
First thing, Ichigo doesn't get his hands dirty. Now, this one is probably the thing that I hate most about Bleach. Ichigo has found a way, in a world full of monsters, demons, and warring races, to never get his own hands dirty. Isn't that bizarre? Ichigo has a savior complex, not necessarily a killing complex. So if you kill the thing, putting the people you want to protect in danger, you're saving them. That satisfies your complex. I don't understand. And also, these people are demons, right? Like,
I mean, they aren't demons, but we kind of
I
already,
think we
yeah,
already touched.
yeah, we
Yeah,
kind of really touched about this earlier, and then you're
yeah.
making that whole video. So
those are literally creatures that whiz off. Now, second, I mentioned this earlier, but Urahara could have done way more. He could have been way more proactive. Number 3 is my beef with Yamamoto. Now, Yamamoto, as the leader of the Goti 13, like
I agree,
So
but I think if he was
um,
normally utilized, it would have just destroyed the story.
I know, but like just a quick little add on to number 2. It was very strange that Urahara planned for like Hogyoku merged Aizen in 100 years. Than he was like it's weird that he like that was his plan and not I have to stop him from merging in the first place. Because I think like one is definitely easier than the other.
It's because Aizen would have. Here's the thing: Aizen would have been so cocky once he evolved, and that was Kisuke's goal. Because if without Aizen being cocky, Kisuke can't even sense in Aizen properly because Aizen's Kyoku Sugetsu. So that was the main reason. Because Aizen became so cocky once he started evolving that he stopped using Kyoku Sugetsu completely.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and that was
Just
like
like started letting his guard down and everything. Yeah,
yeah.
I get that.
So that was kind of what Kisuke's plan revolved down to.
Yeah.
Yeah. As for
Let's
the
keep
Yamamoto
going.
thing, I agree to a degree. I wish he was utilized a little bit more, but I also understand from the perspective of like who he is as a character. Like I kind of see him as like Bleach's version of Netero, but more broken for the verse.
Yes. The one thing I do kind of dislike about it is he had such an amazing fight before his death, but it wasn't. I would have preferred if Watch was just stronger than him, not so much that like it wasn't even Watch.
Mm. I get
Because
it's
it wasn't even it wasn't even Royd or Lloyd, whatever. It wasn't the guy who could copy abilities that Kenpachi fought. It was his brother who could just copy appearances and memories, right? So
yeah.
he got folded by like a random Stern Ritter. I don't know. I'm
No, like
kind of
that guy didn't even
kind of
hurt Yamamoto.
what do you mean?
The Royd didn't even hurt Yamamoto. If you go back to the panel, the only thing that's hurting Yamamoto is his own flames. The guy that defeats Yamamoto is the real Watch, which comes after.
Oh, what chapter? He died pretty early in the
510.
arc.
510.
510.
Well, that's not the chapter he dies, but that's part of the fight. Or it should be 510 to 515. Yamamoto just
Huh.
went to the extreme because at first he thought he was fighting Watch. Also, Yamamoto in one panel, he just before he even goes Bankai, I think it's before he goes Bankai. He just swipes his sword and defeats 3 Stern Riders. I do like how Kubo handles Yamamoto for the most part. I just think there could have been a little bit more utilization here and there. I just think if there was any more, it would have like drastically changed the series. And he's always been kind of this guy that only gets involved when the captains are defeated, or when he's like, he views himself as like a last resort. Like, why should he have to get involved? Like with Aeon, he only stepped in because he was like, if I don't step in, these guys are gonna die. You know what I mean? But yeah, I do get what you're saying.
Powerful Honkai to his beef.
Good
The next
point,
beef is
though,
that Chad
like,
and
with
Rio
the
were constantly
retrospect.
ignored, despite their races being a huge
Yeah,
part of the
again,
major
I
arcs
agree
in
with the
story.
whole
Like, if you were to
Chad
take their
thing.
screen time in both arcs combined, you
I
wouldn't even reach
disagree
a tenth of
with
the
the
screen time you
Rio
could
thing,
have
so
in their
it's like
arcs separately.
50-50
And that's
here.
truly a shame, because the Quincy's coming back should have been a major thing for Rio's character. He just appeared, by the way. We don't know how he got there, what the deal was. No indication about what's
We
going on, really. So I thought that was a
kind of
wash.
already
Number 6, power
spoke
scale on these
about
characters
this.
gives me a headache. For example, there's this thing in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc where it's kind of implied that Mayuri reanimated the corpses of some of the Iran or some of them just didn't flat out die.
Another big error. I said Grimjow was one of the corpses.
Yeah.
He was not. He just happened to be alive.
Yeah.
Quincy's. And one of them was Grimjow, right? And it was really cool to see him again. But at the same time, why was he able to kill like the third strongest Quincy in the grand scheme?
So yeah, this is one of the points I actually really badly wanted to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that you talked about a little bit with what's his name? Broken Ronin. But Grimjow's the one that killed Quillage earlier on in the series. The jail guy. The guy that Ichigo was struggling with.
Oh, that's who fucking killed him?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
it's his ability, and then you also see his arm on the tent.
Oh wow, okay.
So Grimjow's the one that killed Quillage. In chapter 625, it implies that he's been training. And Asuka, in all reality, is not durable at all. If he didn't have his hacks and wasn't focusing on the situation at hand, he would have lost to Yoichi's brother. So like he was getting destroyed by, like, he isn't tough. The reason why he's one of the strongest Quincy's is because of his hacks and how broken they are. But the issue is he has to be observant. That's why you always see him running around. That's why you always see like all that going on. And in fact, in chapter 577, Askin's afraid of the meteor that Grammy creates.
I mean, so is everybody else.
No,
like in his defense.
No, but he's the he's the only Schutzstaffel member that we get focused in on that's afraid of the meteor.
Yeah, let's just finish this video so we can.
So yeah, that was kind of like my nitpicks on like the whole Askin thing. I do agree with that.
No, that makes sense.
In the series,
so the next gripe I have is, why are people always more powerful than they initially let on? The only time that hiding your own power was such a big, well-executed thing was with Kenpachi, because he didn't even know he was doing that. And I love the way that it was slowly revealed and it came out, and it was like really interesting, and it made him one of my favorite characters in the entire series. But at the same time, it's so unfair that he's the only one who gets it. So number 8 is actually like a very important one. It kind of ties in the rest of my grievances together. I just wanted more Soul Reapers to die that were relevant, right?
I agree.
Say, what about Yamamoto? What about any of the other people in the Stern Ritter's initial attack? What about them? Name me 1 or 2 other people aside from Yamamoto that had like a really proper death. You can't even say Ukitake because he did self-sacrifice.
Chojiro Sasakibe.
Who the fuck is that?
That's Yamamoto's lieutenant. Also,
he barely.
There's 3 named seated officers of Squad 2 that die in the initial invasion.
Bro, all you're giving me is a bunch of red shirts.
Like, was the only one that got, like, even
I just love how Kubo, like, in the same chapter, introduces them, names them, gives us their ranking, and then he just kills them off like 3 pages later.
See, there is death.
Yeah, totally. There's definitely a lot of death in Bleach. Totally.
I think I really did like this.
There's more death in One Piece than there is in Bleach.
There is?
Huh?
There is?
Definitely. I don't know if we can get into spoilers, but the Marineford guy, the guy who helped them get into Marineford.
I'm trying to remember who was the guy that helped them get into Marineford.
Bon Clay.
Oh, wait, are you caught up?
Yeah, I'm caught up.
He's not dead.
Fuck. I'm not that caught up.
No, it's revealed in the cover pages.
Oh, what?
It's not revealed in the actual manga. And then you talked about how you did actually enjoy it. I think most people's negative perception was just there was some misinformation said, but that's going to happen whenever you're talking about 698 chapter manga, and you even admit to it. It's not like once people presented the actual chapters and stuff, like you admit.
I corrected it. And I'm hoping this finishes off the corrections. And honestly, now that we're done with the video, I'm like, oh my god, it might have been 50 to 60% that I got that I want to take back. Fuck. So
but I mean, it was a good conversation. Well, I'll be straight up, I don't think the video was amazing. I still think it was an alright video. It wasn't super eye patch whiffs where the first 20 minutes were right and the rest was him like literally double downing on a bunch of. He called Bankai's a Deus Ex Machina.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Now you see our problem. Now you see why the Bleach community is so like upset with Super Eye Patch Whoop, because he calls Bankai's Deus Ex Machina. But that's kind of besides the point. It's not a Super Eye Patch Whoop like mistake. It's more like you were giving your own personal experience with Bleach and trying to come from that mindset. And while I feel like you probably could have elaborated a little better here and there, you were recording for 6 hours. Like,
Hours. Oh my god.
I'd like to
dude.
see somebody record for 6 hours, edit that down, and not make it some misinformation mistake.
Unscripted too.
Oh,
Unscripted.
especially unscripted. Granted,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and then like Bleach also isn't like your series. Like, this is one read through and
Really
one
not.
watch through, if I'm correct.
This was one read through, 2 watch throughs,
2 watch
and
throughs.
yeah, just
So while like
and
some people could say, "Oh, I would have remembered that Ikaku had a Bankai." I mean, I would have remembered that Renji didn't have a Bankai at that point. I mean, if Bleach wasn't my favorite series after 1 or 2 watch throughs, and then like maybe a month later, I probably would like spin some things together and forget some things. Like, I feel like people are just being overly critical, and like you admitted to your mistakes, and nobody should be upset with like somebody making mistakes. You know?
I appreciate that
Yeah.
a lot.
And obviously there was that mindset, and like you gave context on it, and there is a good chunk of the video that is subjective. And some of the statements, I mean, are right, even though they are subjective. Like the whole Yami reveal technically is subjective, you know, like, but I think it's trash. You think it's trash. Anybody who thinks it's good, I disagree.
Seek help.
Yeah, seek help. Yeah. But yeah, check out the video if you guys want to watch it without our 2 hours of commentary. Subscribe to his channel. I'll drop a link into it in the description down below. Subscribe to my own channel. Drop a like on the video if you guys want more Bleach Anime Returns type content. I'm excited for the Bleach Anime Returns. I'm interested to see
Me
on
too.
how they develop that.